Archive is a collection of historical documents or records that is providing an information about a place, institution, or group of people. Archive is also an accumulation of historical records in any media or the physical facility in which they are located. Digital preservation is a formal endeavor to ensure that digital information of continuing value remains accessible and usable. Digital preservation is the active management and maintenance of the digital objects as the files or group of files that is contain the information in a digital form, so they can be accessed and used by future users. It is involved planning, resource allocation, and application of preservation methods and technologies, combines policies, strategies, and actions to ensure reformatted and born digital content regardless of the media failures and technology change.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Soleh binti Ahmad Shukri and I will present objective for our group proposal plan. The first one is to protect the organization digital archive collection for obsolescence through a fully comprehensive implementation of digital preservation program. Second, to reduce the risk of losing with digital content to the company. The third one, to apply the best practice and standards to preserve digital archive collection according to preservation community standard. The fourth one, seek and increase knowledge in developing digital preservation program that are suitable for organization digital archive. And lastly, the fifth one, adapt to new and current digital preservation strategies and evolving technologies.
My name is Nur Atira Najiha binti Nawang. So I'm going to continue with the purpose of digital preservation. So the first one is to preserve the digital material. Generally, digital preservation is a project carried out as an effort to preserve the digital bound document and digitized materials, as well as to provide users the facilities to access and retrieve the digital resources for a long term. With the rapid growth and creation of digital information in different types of formats, it can be a challenge for the organization to manage and organize these collection materials. And lack of specific management and planning in handling this digital information can lead to information being stored in a scattered environment, which makes it difficult to identify the right file and further complicates the process to retrieve this information. And besides, digital preservation also aims to protect the intrinsic and primary value of the information, including administrative, fiscal, legal, and historical value. And it is clear that the materials with this type of value are worth to be maintained and preserved, as they record the establishment and accomplishment of the organization. And besides, all records pertaining to the organization will act as an evidence, especially when there is an issue that requires solid information to defend the rights of the organization and assist the authorized party in making a fair and rational decision. And next is the accessibility of the digital resources through time. As mentioned earlier, another main purpose of digital preservation is to provide facilities in accessing and retrieving the digital resources. The rapid development of technology has encouraged developers to build more sophisticated software applications in facilitating and expediting data transfer and acquisition. And as a result, outdated software applications become no longer relevant to use in the current times, which does not meet the user's needs and demands. So through digital preservation, the organization can maintain the access to the digital resources through time in line with the emergence of new technology. And lastly is to provide cost-effective method in preservation. One of the issues in managing printed form of records is the deterioration of the printed material, which reduces its preservation period. There are several internal and external factors that can accelerate the process of material deterioration, including acidity, temperature, and humidity, insect, dust, light, and water hazards. which requires specific control and handling over the materials. So digital preservation is able to cut the cost in handling this issue by switching to digital environment that can prolong the lifespan of the material.
Preservation strategy and policy. Digital preservation policy is an authority to preserve digital records from damage and loss. The implemented policy are why the digital records are selected for preservation. Both strategy and policy are important to make sure it is verified and trusted. The policy requirements for digital preservations are creation, appraisal, and selection, and adjacency. For preservation strategy, it should include the most suitable strategy for digital preservation. In order to develop the strategies, the records creator has to do the planning preservation to manage the process of preservation, storage, backup, and accessibility for digital collections. This will include risk assessment and impact assessment. Risk assessment. The organization performs the analysis risk in digital records and that hold by them and determine the types and level of preservation. Impact assessment. In order to respond to the outcomes of risk assessment, the organization prioritizes the action that needs to take action and implemented changes accordingly.
Okay, hi, my name is Nur Shafika. Okay, I will continue this presentation with the part roles and responsibilities. Okay, this department must be staffed by individuals that are knowledgeable and skilled in the field of records administration. For the first one is Director General. The responsibility for supervising and manage all activities related to administration, management and preservation has been assigned to Director General, and the Director General may also advise record building agencies on the collection, classification and disposal of procedures and techniques. Next is Digital Archive. Digital archivists look for new objects to archive as well as manage historical collection of documents and records. They also organize items like image, electronic data, film, clips, or paper records and recording. Archivists preserve records according to industry standards to ensure that they are available for the long term. Archivists also organize records by catalog and preparing them to public access. Okay, next is IT technician. IT will be in charge of providing technological and system-wide support, as well as a multi-level storage solution to serve as a repository for digital assets. IT will also work with digital archivists to identify and enable the capture, transfer and preservation of enterprise content, which is staff accounts and profits or email. Okay, next is facilities manager. They are responsible for ensuring the harmonious operation of structure of the built environment or facility. It is important for facility managers to ensure that the place where we are works, learn and life are healthy, comfortable, efficient and sustainable. Next is metadata specialist. The metadata specialist is in charge of checking and ensure that digital content is reported in according to with established policies and rules in order to provide long-term access to archive items. Okay, for content specialists conduct research on content and consumer trends, establish content strategy and create content for a wide range of enterprise in print and digital media. Okay, last is preservation specialist. The digital preservation specialist make recommendation on the development and implementation of digital preservation strategies, technologies and procedures to the digital preservation. They are analyze, design and recommend acceptable preservation techniques, risk criteria and standard for electronic records, and perform analysis and make recommendation regarding the software tools and system capabilities for digital preservation operation, such as format specification, format conversion, inspection and reporting, and machine learning that can help automate assessment, storage risk and activation conditions.
Next is procedures. Accession disks found during processing. It is some digital media will have removed from the collection during accessioning. Additional functionalities will likely be found during processing when boxes are examined more closely. Second is copy files to workspace on the sensible. Only 2 staff members and some library system staff have access to this space. The library system backups the space daily to a server located in another building on the campus. Survey and processing plan. Use the digital archive processing inventory spreadsheet template for the survey. Typically, the survey has one row in the spreadsheet per piece of digital media. Next is appraisal. Appraisal is typically done at the TIS level or upper folder level. Number 5 is arrangement. It is identify series and subseries and level of arrangement. Number 6 is description. Digital files are described in our finding aids. For hybrid collection, description of digital files is integrated with the description of the papers. Next is restriction. It is to analyze the files for material that should be restricted based on the folder titles. Identify folders that are likely to include restricted and review a sample of the files in that folder to determine if it should be closed. And last is file format analysis. To facilitate a long-term preservation, we need to know what files formats are in the archive.
Next is a facility and storage. The first one is building. Fire resistant and fireproof building that equipped with appropriate fire detection. The building also need to include smoke and leak detectors and the fire extinguisher for any emergencies happen. For temperature for server room that usually been suggested for any organization between 10 to 28 Celsius. The room needs to be cooled to ensure the heat for equipment can be reduced to avoid any damaged components. The second one is equipment and supplies. Adequate shelving to accommodate current holding as well as expected expansion over to next 5 to 10 years. For large objects such as photo, maps, and other artifacts that fluctuate in size of kind of media, archive must offer suitable storage for equipment. The third one is security software. Installing security software for all computers in digital archive will prevent something to happen to the all records and data that's saved in the computer. And then lastly, storage. For long-term storage, archive commonly utilize CDs and DVDs. However, significant advances in magnetic media have provided quick and reliable storage, rendering portable medium obsolete. And for cloud storage, cloud service can give to personally manage digital storage and integrity check, as well as quick automatic replication to numerous locations.
Next, I'm going to continue with this maintenance and building. So the first one is in terms of system maintenance, which is to ensure that the system can operate properly and avoid failure. Technical personnel in charge must do a regular inspection on the system and computers thoroughly, including the hardware and software application. It is crucial as even a single failure of the hardware can cause system to stop working, which prevent the whole activities to operate accordingly. So regular inspection must be carried out in order to resolve problems as soon as possible and avoiding more serious error to arise. And besides, the system and equipment also must be monitored continuously to identify its performance and operating conditions, whether it is working as usual and can keep up with its performance. Monitoring the performance of the system continuously also can help to identify malfunctioning equipment so that any alternative solutions can be proposed and implemented so that the system is able to run optimally. Along with that, other preventive measures that must be considered include backup the system in case of emergency and updating the operating system used for every computer server, and lastly is to run antivirus and malware scans frequently to detect any emergence of virus that can threaten the security of the server. Next is in terms of features of the building. Similarly with any physical repository, the building must be physically and environmentally secure and stable with sufficient and reliable power supply to operate all of the equipment used. power supply is one of the major priorities when dealing with technological environments. So it is important to ensure that the building have adequate number of power supply to prevent any electricity shortage, voltage fluctuations, and also power surge. And besides, the server room also must be secure as it is the main resources that links all of the data pertaining to the organization system and database. So to ensure that the security of the server room, the location itself must be taken into consideration to prevent any unauthorized access and exposed to the unforeseen risks. It is recommended that the server room is not located near the exterior walls or windows to avoid any security threat, as well as it can expose equipment to extreme temperatures and natural disaster. And lastly is fire disaster planning also is important as a precaution measure. So the building must be provided with fire detection and extinguishing equipment, including fire alarms, horn loudspeakers, fire detectors, sprinkler, and also fire extinguisher. This firefighting equipment also must be kept in the building at all times, and the equipment also must be inspected and tested annually and regularly so that it can be used when it is needed. And besides, the sign of fire exit also should be placed at suitable and appropriate points inside the building in accordance with the rule and regulation.
Disaster planning for digital records. The purpose to do disaster planning for digital records are to preserve the records from damage, loss, and to protect the value of valuable assets in digital records that have been created in the organization. Besides, the implementation of disaster planning is to reduce the risk of affected disaster towards the digital records. Here are the steps to do the disaster planning, which are reducing the risk, preparing for the disaster. Reducing the risk. You should backup all the digital records regularly. Make some copies for the digital records which can readable, and at least store them in one set of backup copies in a remote location. Digital records like CD-ROM, DVD, and magnetic tapes should not be kept in basements, garage, or other places that can be affected by the weather disaster or relative humidity. It can damage the digital records. Second, preparing for the disaster, you have to list out all the contacts such as fire station, hospital, police station, facility manager, essential staff, office numbers, home and other team members to inform the organization when the disaster happened. You have the copies of the inventory to assess the digital records if the disaster happens. Maybe the organization will be damaged or it does not have electric for a few days, so at least you have backup of the records.
Okay, next is security of holding. The Data Protection Act or comparable privacy regulation protecting personal information may apply to information maintained with the repository. Confidentiality agreement may also apply to the information. And then many types of digital documents select for long-term preservation may contain confidential and sensitive information that need to be protected from prevent unauthorized access. Information security measures like encryption complete the preservation process and should be avoided for archive copies if at all possible. Public office are required by security legislation to examine the security demands of their system and to develop policies and procedures to ensure that those systems are adequately safeguarded. Government agency must keep a security plan that outline the security method and process in place to protect the electronic document and system.